right, guys, so we got exciting one today, at least exciting to me, maybe not to you. We are doing a throttle body shootout. So I've got the Mamo 87 millimeters, I've got the Solar 87 millimeters, I've got stock, and then I've also got your 91 millimeter, the new Solars that are out. We're gonna look at those, do an up close deep dive. I'm gonna do some testing, mainly on the 91s. I have some baseline testing on the Mamos. And there's also two different types of Mamos. You got the hand ported and you got CNC ported. The CNC is basically based off the hand port design, so they should be relatively equivalent. On the car right now for baseline data, I have the Tony Mamo hand ported, and what you're gonna see here is gonna be the CNC ported. So let's take a quick look, let's do a deep dive and see what we can find.
Before we get started, I like to keep it honest and real with everyone. That's kind of been my theme of my channel. So I do have a little bit of conflict of interest. I've actually put a purchase order in for the 87 millimeters on the Mamos. So I have, I think it's like 9 sets coming. And so for that reason, there could be a potential bias to the video because I do have an investment basically in the Mamos. So just keep that in mind. I try to keep my mind from not being biased, but that can be left for you to determine. That being said, I've used solar products. I've been happy with solar products. I've had no issues with solar products. But we are going to go over these things and at least look at them as objectively as possible. Just keep that in mind. I do have a slight conflict of interest, so I did want to disclose that. Okay, so let's do a deep dive here. So we got the 87 Solar. I'm going to compare the two. That's been compared in some other videos, but we're going to go over it anyway. Just so you can kind of get an idea of what you're looking at, what's different between the two. So something I noticed immediately between the two is this is not a GM housing. I don't know where it's from, but it's definitely not GM based on the sides, the markings on the side, the cover, and the GM pretty much has these barcodes. You'll see barcode, barcode. This one had a barcode that's painted over. And along the sides, they all have barcodes. So all the GM ones will have that. And the 87s have it, but it is not on these. So it's obviously a different core. So it's not a factory core, at least this one that I've received is not. So let's take another good look. See what we got here. So this is their stock one. You can see they've got the light coming from the back. But you open it and your main areas of porting are down here. You got some proprietary cuts that they do up here for airflow. I'm assuming that has something to do with the idle. And then your throttle shaft is the same stock size and it's the same stock blade, but you can see a lot of machining on the side here, cuts up here, cuts on the side, cuts on the top. So that's their stock. Now let's look at the 87s. So on the 87s, when you open it, I'm sorry, the 91s, when you open it, you see this got a fully machined shaft. We've got up here, there's dimples on the back side, which is copying like the airflow technology from I think, you know, golf balls, those kind of things. It's supposed to, as air comes up over, it's supposed to smooth the transition, the airflow, airspeed. So another thing I noticed too, is if you look, it's machined at the base, and we're gonna get some measurements to actually look at it. Also on the blade itself, there's some machining, you can kind of see it a little bit here, some machining along the side of the blade. So that's something that also comes with the Solar. So that's them, and now we're gonna look at the Mamos. See what you think. So this is Mamo, and basically on the Mamos, you see there is a fully machined shaft, top and bottom. So machined on top, machined on bottom, and you can see through here the surface area. It's just a different style port. I'm not gonna say one, I'm not an airflow expert, so I'm not gonna say one's better than the other. It's definitely a smoother design to it, but everybody has the way they do it. They've had airflow tests, so we kind of know where they stand. One thing I do know is these have been airflowed, at least against the 87s, and this Mamo has flowed more than the 87s. I do not know about the 91s yet. So that's pretty much, this is what you're looking at with the Mamo style. So throttle shaft's a little different. And so now we're gonna go over a couple other little things. So let's get some measurements, see how big our ports, our openings are, at least compared to stock. So I've got my caliper tool. I wanna measure this blade on the 91 and measure our blades to see, are they the same size? Turn this on, and then I'm gonna take, set this right here for just a second. All right, so blade size for the 91. All right.
I'm gonna take this out to z06. Okay, there's 89. So we're in our caliper tool. So 89 works on it. So we're gonna layer it down. So this is a 86.7, basically an 87 millimeter blade. Okay, 87 millimeters. That's the size. Take the Mamo. So you'll make no changes to this. Goes around the side of it. This one 86.8, so basically 87 millimeters roughly. You can see there, the same. We're going to take a look at their 87s. We're going to measure those. Throttle blade is about the same, 86.8. So these all have relatively the same blade. So the actual diameter of the blade itself, these blades are the same. So keep that in mind. It says 91 millimeter, but they all have the same 87 millimeter blade. So that tells me that the difference comes from this throttle shaft machining, at least at a minimum, some of the blade machining on the corner, and the throttle shaft machining. I'm assuming this EFF means effective flow something. I'll have to reach out to Solar and ask exactly what that means. But the throttle blade itself is 87. So they're all 87 millimeter technically. So the differences I can tell right away are, one, this is a factory core, non-factory, factory. So that's different. Blade shafts are the same, throttle shaft machining different. So let's look at our inlets and how deep our ports are on what goes in where. So I'm gonna take and start here. All right, so I'm gonna see how big the Mamos are. Okay. All right, so I've got this on Mamo size. This goes all the way down on Mamo. So this is looking at 83.26. Let's go over here to the 91s. I've made no change on this at all. It will not go on, so I cannot get it in. So let's turn it. So obviously this has got a wider opening, at least on the initial port. So I can say that is the case. Now let's look at these older Solars. And this Solar goes on the older Solar. So they've got a very equivalent initial opening port, because this slides on, it does not. So it looks like they're maybe more progressive on the 91s, because you see here, I can't get this in like it can. Well, actually, here we go. Nope. Yeah, see, it won't go. I cannot get it to go. I can on their 87s. So their initial port on the 87s is wider, and not as wide actually on the 91s. So the 87 Mamo and the 87 Solar are very equivalent as far as the initial port, okay? At least from my caliper tool. And this is actually smaller, which is interesting on the 91s. So, because I can't get this over there. So it looks like to me, like I said, this is all my opinion, that the initial step-in port is less aggressive on the 91. I'm assuming due to something about the surface area or what, but it's definitely different. This looks like a more aggressive, you can see this cuts port, okay? And so anyways, I can feel it's smoother here. It's definitely smoother at the base side on a Mamo, I will say that. And then the big difference at the top, you see on these cuts here on the Solar, they've got these corner cuts and then the blades. So that's what I'm seeing so far. I've weighed these on a gram scale, because that could be indicative of how much material's been taken off. The problem is it's not the same core, so that test is not relevant, unfortunately, because they use different bolts to hold these on, and so they're all different. So the weights are all going to be a little different with a different core. I don't know how relevant that data is going to be. So now what we're going to do is, I've got, like I said, 87 Mamos. I've got 6130 I got last night times. I'm going to swap on these 91s today. We're going to go through the procedure that Solar wants, and I'm going to do some 6130 testing, see if my times get better, worse, the same, and kind of go from there. And my buddy David with DBM Racing, he's planning on doing actual dyno testing of these and kind of get you numbers from that standpoint. Some official, mine's going to be more objective or subjective, just because conditions and stuff change. But I'm going to do the best I can to kind of say whether I feel like these are superior. I can tell you right now, and this is just my opinion, looking at what we've got here, I actually personally prefer the 87s, at least from the Solars, just based on the look, what I've gotten with my caliper tool, and the fact that like the core worries me a little bit, not being a GM core. But I love the throttle shaft machining. I love that. I love the little cuts on the blade. I like those things. I just wish it was in a regular core. I'm sure they have reasons for doing that. And so for right now, if I'm just looking at what I see here and I'm picking a throttle body based on looks, and like I said, keep this all with a grain of salt because I am slightly biased here, but I'm picking here based on this cut, the throttle shaft. It feels sturdier, stronger. It's bigger. It's a regular core. To me, I like this Mamo better, this Mamo CNC. Now, when he officially releases these will have engravings on them. They don't have that right now. That's kind of a holdup right now in his production process. So anyway, so let's get them on the car. I'll show you a little bit of that install. It's pretty straightforward. And then we're gonna go down the road and get some times. And then also real quick, I do wanna show stock. So there's stock, you can see, it's awful. Mamo, 91, 87, 7, 91, Mamo, stop. Okay, so we got the throttle bodies in. I've now swapped them. These are the new Solars. You can see by the side markings. These are the new ones. And we are gonna do some road testing, all right? Like I said, didn't do the install mainly because so other videos you can refer to. So, all right, we're gonna do some road testing. So I'm doing the idle procedure that you'll see on the screen. This is from Justin's video, actually. I didn't see any instructions to do this. I might have missed them in the bottom. They may have been there, I just didn't see them. So you're gonna run it for 3 minutes, turn off, run it for 3 more minutes, and then turn off again, and then it's gonna be a couple things while we're driving. Okay, here we go. I did the 3 minutes, off 1 minute, 3 minutes, so now I just got the decels, and then I've got okay, so I said to do some decels. Okay, all right, so we are going to do our 60 to 130. Got my draggy hooked up front. It's recording on my iPad, it's in the passenger. So, and now. Okay, so pull the laptop over. That was a 697. And let's pull it up. That is valid. You can see the DA was 79 feet, so not quite as good as the previous. So performs, if you want to look at apples to apples, the other one was a little quicker but in better air. So if anything, they're pretty equivalent as of right now from a performance standpoint. So now it becomes an airflow thing. So, all right, guys. So there you have it. The test completed. Pretty equivalent performance-wise, it seems to be if you factor in the air. So I'm going to go on record saying, from performance standpoint, they seem very similar. From a driving them, which I haven't done a ton of miles, I prefer the tip-in of the Mamos. I like the smoothness, a little smoother, but these may need just more time to kind of like get the air fuel kind of aired out, because it will change a little bit based on the reporting versus Mamos at certain throttle percentages. So that might be one of those things that kind of changes over time. Right now, given they're pretty equivalent, I'm probably gonna run the Mamos. I like the fact that it's factory core, and I personally prefer the tip in of those. But from pure performance, what my testing shown so far, they seem to be equivalent. So let's get these on the airflow bench. Solar's released their numbers. I'll post them here. We'll try to get Mamo's numbers, and let's let these two duke it out, see which ones are better, and ultimately whichever one's better, that's the one I'm going to run. So far, I believe Mamo overall is going to tip the scales a little bit, but it's going to come, at a cost. And so that's just at least my opinion. I think now we got to get these on the dyno. David with DVM is going to be doing that, do some direct dyno testing, do some airflow testing, see if we can settle this. I haven't been able to settle this right now. They seem pretty equivalent. So that's going to be my overall review. Which one am I going to run? I'm going to run the Mamos. I prefer the design. That's just me personally. So anyway, so that's where it's at. But I can't say it's non-inferior. That's at least from a overall performance. That's what I'm going to give my verdict right now. So stay tuned. We'll have more testing. Watch DVM Racing's channel. He's going to have some more stuff popping up. I'm going to have Corsa intake install popping up, 6130 times testing with it. So if you like what you see, like and subscribe, please. And we'll see you on the flip side. Bye.